Have you ever noticed something strange? Thousands of years ago, miracles seemed almost ordinary. People healed, people knew things they shouldn't have known ahead of time, people influenced nature, people changed lives left and right. People experienced things that today many people would immediately dismiss as impossible. No way. So here's my question. What if miracles didn't disappear? What if people capable of expressing them became more rare? If you ever wondered whether miracles, healings, intuition, or extraordinary spiritual experiences are still possible, I think you're going to enjoy this conversation because by the end of this video, I'm going to share 3 ingredients that I believe explain why 2 people can learn the exact same spiritual technique and experience different results. And the answer has almost nothing to do with the technique itself. I'm also going to teach you how to change weather. Now, before you get uncomfortable, I'm not asking you to just flat out believe me. I'm asking you to accept what resonates and reject what doesn't. But keep in mind, every generation has believed something was impossible until somebody proved otherwise. There was a time people believed human beings would never fly. There was a time heart transplant sounded ridiculous. And today, my favorite uncle, Uncle Teddy, is pushing 80. 1 heart transplant and somehow about 5 times as many girlfriends as I remember him having growing up. I still don't know if they replaced his heart or upgraded his whole operating system. Yesterday's miracle became today's medical procedure. There was also a time calling someone in another state could bankrupt your entire family. Remember your parents standing in the doorway yelling, "Get off the phone! That's long distance!" Today, you can use WhatsApp to call somebody on the other side of the planet for free and get irritated now because the call froze for 3 minutes. What is this? How many people are on the internet right now in our house? It's amazing how miracles, now they can bore us. Yesterday's miracle becomes tomorrow's inconvenience. Think about that for a second. How many miracles surround your life today that you're simply become too familiar to notice? If that made you reminisce, do me a favor. Tap that like button. That lets YouTube know that this conversation is worth saving and makes other thoughtful people like you find this community too. Now, here's where I think most of us make a mistake. Whenever people become interested in spirituality, they immediately want the technique. Teach me the visualization. Teach me the breathing exercises. Teach me the secret words. As if the technique is the miracle. I don't think it is. In fact, I think techniques, that's the easiest part. Books teach techniques. Videos teach techniques. Seminars, they teach techniques. Today, knowledge is everywhere. So here's the mystery. Why can 2 people learn the exact same technique, pass the exact same certification, say the exact same words, and one person's life changes while the other walks away saying, "That didn't work"? Why? Most people blame the technique. I don't. I think they're missing 2/3 of the equation. And that's where this conversation gets pretty interesting because I believe the formula actually looks like this. Outcome equals technique plus virtue plus experience. 3 ingredients. Miss 1, everything changes. Peep this out. Several years ago, I was teaching in India. We had rented 7 buses filled with university students coming to an event. Now, this event was on the side of a beautiful mountain. Beautiful. There was a river below us, cliffs all around. The sunset was going to be incredible. The day before, we went and everything looked perfect. The next day, arrived early with the team and discovered we had unexpected guests the night before. Apparently, a cow convention was there the night before, and the cows weren't told to clean up after themselves. So that mountain looked like Mother Nature had declared war on shoes. For the next 30 minutes, I became India's newest golfer. 4, boom, 4, boom. Every step was an attempt not to lose shoes or step in doo-doo. We finally got the place looking respectable, and then someone on the team looked at the sky. Sir, I think it's going to rain. Now understand, we've been there for weeks. Not one drop. But that afternoon, the sky looked like it was auditioning for Noah's Ark. Dark clouds, strong wind, the kind of weather where everybody instinctively starts looking for shelter. Then the phone rang. The buses are 5 minutes away. 7 busloads of students who had traveled an hour just to attend this event. My team kept asking, what do we do? What do we tell them? Should we send everyone home? I looked at them and said, just give me a minute. I turned and started walking away from my team towards the river. I honestly think a couple of them wondered if I was about to jump in. I wasn't. Of course, years earlier, I was studying in Nepal and also India, and I was taught a meditation technique designed to influence the weather. So I closed my eyes and I began to meditate. And I heard someone from my team behind me say, "Sir, the first bus is here." A few moments later, "Sir, the second bus is here." Then another voice, "Sir, what do we tell them?" By now, I hear them, hundreds of students on the buses laughing and cheering. "We are one. We are one." Then I opened my eyes. I turned around, looked at my team, calmly said, "It will not rain up in here today." They looked at me like I lost my mind. And if I was standing in their spot, I probably would have looked at me the same way. I mean, the clouds were still there. The wind was still blowing. And everything about that sky that day, said, get ready, because it's about to pour down. But in the next 3 hours, we laughed, we meditated, we learned. The energy was unbelievable. And years later, people still tell me it was one of the greatest experiences of their lives. And you want to know how much it rained that day? Not one drop, not a drizzle, nothing. Now, what does that prove? Does it prove anything? Someone could say that's just coincidence, right? Could be. But the interesting part, the weather isn't actually the point of me telling you this. The weather, that's just a distraction. The real miracle was something entirely different. Because after hearing about this story, most people ask me, can you teach me that meditation technique? And that's exactly the wrong question. Because they're chasing the technique. They're ignoring the experience that makes that technique valuable. If you're enjoying this conversation, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below. Do you think miracles disappeared? Or do you think we've forgotten something important? I mean, when's the last time you heard about a real life miracle? I read the comments every week, and your comments could be part of a future discussion. Now, I don't want to just tease you. I'm going to tell you the actual technique I use. And also, you can use the link in the description to find out about that meditation technique. I went into a trance using the well-being meditative technique. Then you imagine the sky, not looking at the sky, but being in the sky. Imagine the clouds. You feel the wind moving through you. You feel the moisture gathering. You feel the rain, not as something outside of yourself, but as something occurring within the larger system that you're part of. If your intention is to hold the rain, you imagine warmth, the sun expanding within you. Again, that's simply the technique. Anybody can learn that. I explained it in 15 seconds. The technique isn't the difficult part. Here's what almost everybody misses. The work behind that technique is oneness, not pretending you're connected, actually experiencing connection, feeling that you're not separate from life, but participating in it. That's what the meditation exercise in the description of this video helps you do. That changes everything. Think about a 3-legged race. 2 people, 1 leg tied together. You don't win because one person runs faster. In fact, the harder one tries to outrun the other, you're going to lose. You're going to stumble. You only move well when you move together. That's oneness. It's not just a beautiful spiritual word. It's a functional ability. And believe me, the greatest secrets behind many extraordinary experiences, not becoming more important, it's becoming more connected. Now, here's where this gets even more interesting. Because oneness is only one virtue. There are others. And I think those virtues explain why miracles became so rare. Because technique alone has never been enough. Never. Technique plus virtue plus there's one final ingredient almost nobody talks about. And I think it may be the most important one of all. So far, we talked about technique, we talked about virtue, but there's a third ingredient that I think almost everyone overlooks: experience. That's right, I said it, experience. Because here's something life has taught me. You don't develop virtue by reading about it. You develop virtue by living through something that demands it. Think about compassion. Can someone teach you the definition of compassion? Of course. Can they give you genuine compassion without ever experiencing pain or witnessing someone else's suffering? Probably not. Pain has a way of expanding the heart. How about patience? Nobody wakes up one morning and suddenly becomes patient. Oh, no. Patience is usually developed because life keeps making you wait. Wait for the answer. Wait for the opportunity. Wait for the money. Wait for the healing. Wait for the relationship. Wait for things to make sense. Life has a way of asking you these questions. And honesty, sometimes you don't truly appreciate honesty until you've been lied to, betrayed, misled, bamboozled. Sometimes you just gotta be distrusted, mistrusted. Experience creates virtue. And virtue changes how every technique expresses itself. That's why I don't believe spirituality is simply about collecting methods and techniques. It's about becoming. One of my mentors, Reverend John White, once told me something I'll never forget. He said, Will, if you want to perform miracles like Jesus, then you need to think like Jesus. That sentence stayed with me. Notice what he didn't say. He didn't say, copy the miracles. He didn't say, memorize the techniques. He said, think like Jesus. In other words, develop the consciousness. Become the kind of person through whom extraordinary things could naturally express themselves. That changed everything for me, because suddenly I stopped asking, how do I do this? And I started asking, who do I need to become? Those are very different questions. One is chasing power. The other is developing character. And maybe, just maybe, that's why nearly every great spiritual teacher spent so much time talking about love, talking about humility, forgiveness, service, patience, talking about compassion. Not because those ideas sounded nice. Maybe those virtues were the prerequisites. Think about it. Imagine giving extraordinary spiritual abilities to someone who still couldn't control their temper. Someone cuts them off in traffic, and now they're trying to summon lightning. We all be in trouble. Or imagine giving reality-bending abilities to people who spend all day arguing with strangers on the internet. You know who I'm talking about. Before they even brush their teeth, they're already typed, "You're an idiot." Can you imagine? Power without character usually ends badly. That's why I believe virtue isn't a moral checklist. It's preparation. Preparation for responsibility, because every increase in power requires an increase in character. That's true in business. That's true in leadership. That's true in parenting. And I believe it's true in spirituality. Don't you? If this idea is giving you a new way of looking at spirituality, I love to have you subscribe. Every week we explore meditation, consciousness, personal growth, and practical spirituality. Not just techniques, but the kind of thinking that changes who we are becoming. Now, let me ask you something. What if the greatest miracle isn't changing the weather? What if the greatest miracle is changing ourselves? Because we change ourselves, we change our decisions. We change our relationships. We change the people around us. We become calmer, kinder, wiser, more courageous. And maybe those changes are the very things that eventually make greater possibilities available to us. I don't know exactly where the limits are. I don't even pretend to. But I do know this. The more I have worked on becoming a better human being myself, the more extraordinary life has become. the more superpowers I picked up. Not because I became perfect, far from it, but because my relationship with life changed. And perhaps that's what miracles have been trying to teach us all along. Look what you can do, but look what you can become. In the description of this video, check out the link for the Well-Being Meditation Library. I created guided meditations designed not just to help you chill, but to help you cultivate the qualities we talked about today. Maybe miracles haven't disappeared at all. Maybe we spent so much time searching for techniques and getting these certifications that we've forgotten to develop the virtues that give those techniques life. Techniques plus virtues plus experience. Miss one and everything changes. Remember, yesterday's miracles become tomorrow's convenience. But yesterday's virtue can become tomorrow's transformation. And that's a miracle available to every one of us. Thank you for spending this time with me. If these conversations resonate with you, I'd love to invite you to join us for Search this Sunday. It's online. It's an online group I founded. That's a three-way conversation. We kick it off with a spiritual topic. We have a group meditation and then a small group discussion on it. And I invite you to that three-way conversation. Next week, we're going to explore something that changed the way I think about spirituality forever. If miracles aren't really about techniques, then what actually increases spiritual ability? I think the answer may surprise you. Until then, become better, help others, and stay meditated.